So, good afternoon. I'm Chryssantthe, and together with Dimitrios we work in a private school in Athens, Greece. And for the last 6 years, we have fully integrated in our school the one-to-one process. We will show you that. I mean, it's one student, one tablet PC. It was a really difficult time for us because we need to follow different procedures. We had seminars, training, but I think we have successfully managed to fully exploit all the tech, let's say, devices that the school gives us. And today we are here because we want to share with you our experience, and of course, we want you to give us feedback to all the things that we have done.
We're looking forward to hearing your ideas, and because we're going to work as groups or pairs, please make sure that you find a partner.
So we will start with an overview. The introduction comes with a dilemma. Always, the teachers always have a dilemma. And the dilemma is, what kind of methodology are we going to use in a classroom that it is full of technological devices? And sometimes, you know, do you have that dilemma? I mean, what kind of methodology are you going to use? What kind of approach? And the thing that we say is that instead of, do we have to fight against technology, or are we going to do something in a different way, a more diplomatic way, let's say? I think this is the case.
In other words, the question is there room for literature in our classroom now that technology has invaded everything? We'll find out, we'll discuss that. In the first part, we're going to talk about all techniques which are enhanced by technology, and Chryssantthe will talk about flipped classrooms. In the second part, we'll talk about what kind of web tools we use with our students and collaborative platforms that we found useful. Some of them were, some others weren't, and we'll talk about it. And the third part, the floor goes to you. We'd like to hear your ideas, your opinion, your experience. Now, Chryssantthe and I are Greek, and we were born and bred in a country where literature has always been there for a few thousand years. You might recognize some famous people. For us, we always took it for granted. And that's my daughter, Lida.
Wow, what has Lida got to do with literature?
Well, that's the problem. She's got nothing to do with literature. She will just spend all day long on Facebook and YouTube. And I have to tell you, I'm a failure as a father, complete failure.
He's desperate, trust me. But does that ring a bell to you? Do you have students with the same attitude, doing nothing but being in front of a screen and having always the Facebook?
And what's even worse, we work at a school where netbooks are part of the daily routine, which means that students don't feel very confident using books. Or at least not as confident as using devices. So, at the very beginning, when in 2009, at the school we were introduced with the one-to-one approach, all students had their own tablet PCs. There was a dilemma. Have you ever, let me visualize my thoughts. I'll use an extract from a film, you might know that. Now that's the story of a Spartan king who tried to defend his territory, his realm. He had 1,000 warriors against 300,000. He fought a losing battle. And to be honest, that's how I felt when I saw technology invading. So, what do you instinctively do? Well, you grab a book and you think, right, this is my territory, keep away from there. I want to, keep you away from my only field of authority, which is literature. I mean, all kids know about technology, but they don't know about literature. Now, Leonidas had a glorious death because he defended his country, but on second thoughts, I don't think that I would have a glorious ending if I kept resisting technology. So, I had lots of serious thoughts about it.
Wow. You know something, I would have acted differently. I have got a different mind, as a woman. So, I believe that when you are outnumbered by all these enemies that we think, the iPads, the textbooks and everything, I would do something like, what is that? Do you remember it?
Trojan horse.
Yes. What happened is that the Greeks wanted to invade Troy. I mean, they couldn't do it, so finally they decided, wow, we can do something different. We will use the wooden horse, and suddenly, oops, they got into Troy, and everything ran smoothly. However, nowadays we don't have Trojan horses. What do we have? Who knows? You do know? No. Let's go back to the animal kingdom. That is going to help us. The Trojan mouse. So that's a device that will help us to conquer students, parents, everybody.
Right, our next dilemma was, should we use technology? I mean, there are so many, literature, is that there are so many interesting things that one can do with technology in class. Do we really need literature? Well, we will not tell you the answer.
Don't answer that. Let's give it food for thought.
Think about it. I mean, at the back of your mind, you could have it during the workshop and we can talk about it at the end. What we want you to do, though, because literature has to do with storytelling, we'll show you how two different stories were narrated. One in the modern way and the one in the old-fashioned way. And as you have a quick look at them, we want you to think of
layout,
places, a length of text,
yes.
Visual aids, if there are any. Okay, so this is one of them. Now, most of you are familiar with it. This is the story of Christina Smith presenting at the Language Technology Special Interest Group. And this is a Facebook page. Well, most of you are familiar with that. It is a way to tell a story. It's a modern way.
Shorter?
Is text used there? Minimum, that's right. Any visual aids? That's right. Photos, lights, signs. And this is another story, told by Charles Dickens. It's the first chapter of David Copperfield. Any difference there? Any visuals?
And who's going to read that, Dimitrios? It's so boring.
Thank you, no. You don't have to read it. What about lexis? Kept to the minimal or many?
Too many.
And how are feelings described? Through? Words, that's right.
Will the student be motivated or frustrated? I mean, when he uses that.
Okay. And we also want you to think if it's the same genre or not. But I think that's enough with theory. Now let's go to action.
Okay.
We'll need your help. It's the jigsaw activity we referred to earlier. Ideally, we take half the class because you are a class now. We want you to do something, but we'll need your cooperation. It's really hard to take half the room outside.
Yeah.
I know it's good fun, but... so we want you to have a look at the post-it notes you have. How many of you have got the pink notes? Pink post-it, yes, pink.
Listeners?
Okay, we want you to listen to something and take notes. Don't show the person next to you, just listen and take notes. The ones with the yellow post-it notes, ideally you would go out with Chryssantthe and have a chat. But we can't really do it right now, so we will ask you to just... Exactly, close your ears. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go.
Last night, I dreamt I went to Manbury again. It seemed to me I stood by the iron gate leading to the drive. And for a while, I could not enter, for the way was barred.
That's it. Okay. You can unplug your ears now. Okay. Now we would like the ones who had closed their ears, we want you to watch it. It'll be without sound, and we want you to take notes. Ideally, the listeners would go out with Chryssantthe. We can't do that, but I suppose you can just lower your head, have a look at your notes, see how you can reconstruct the story. Now let's see if we can make it work. Think of what he's going to do, why he's there, what he's thinking of. Okay. Fair enough. All right, now what I want you to do is I want you to share notes, work in pairs, or in groups if you want to, and I want you to try and reconstruct the story.
In pairs or?
In pairs or in groups, yes. You've got 3 minutes. All right, well, does anybody know where we got that from?
Is it a Hitchcock film?
It's a Hitchcock film from the 50s. Any clues about which book? Very. It's Rebecca. Yes, that's right. Well done. Well done. So you can easily find it on YouTube. Now let's go back and see what we did. We tried to create an information gap. We didn't actually work the way we did in class, but if you try it in your classroom, it's quite easy. Because people go out, they don't have a clue of what's going on in the classroom, there's lots of anticipation about what's going on. And they have to share information. Unless you have the information, unless you share information, you can't know what's going on. Always save you know in your class who are the strong listeners, the good listeners, and save the listening part for them. Obviously your level of proficiency is very high, so you only listen to it twice. In a normal classroom, you ask them to do it twice or 3 times, depending on the level. Do we use visual aids? Yes. Well, obviously, when you project it on a big screen, the resolution is not so good. But in a classroom, in an interactive whiteboard, it seems to be okay. Learning styles? Do we cater for any learning styles? Different learning styles? Audio? Visual? And if there's a follow-up activity and you ask them to act it out, well, there's a kinesthetic part. Skills? Listening, writing, speaking. Reading is going to follow, because basically this is what you want to do. You want to stimulate their interest about the book. Motivation, it's up to you to decide whether you were engaged or not. And to be honest, I deliberately chose a film in black and white.
Why?
Simply because if you were engaged now and you wanted to find out things about what happened there, and even though the picture was blurry, imagine how strong the image is when you use a modern film. Not the one that I've seen though.
Yeah.
I have got a question. Me. Are there any restrictions?
Yes,
Okay.
obviously there are restrictions. But before we talk about restrictions, let me say that this is probably the only way you can make a 15-year-old boy or boys in your class to read a romantic novel, about a woman who feels overshadowed by the dead woman of her husband. No boy would ever read that. So you do need, to think in a different way. Yes, obviously there are restrictions. The restriction that we had here, I was struggling till the very last moment to take you outside the classroom. Sometimes this is feasible, sometimes it's not, but it's good fun if you do it.
But you know, that might work, I think, better if it was in a one-to-one classroom, the one we said at the beginning, where we had our students, one student, one laptop, or they had internet and access to that at home. And it would be a nice example, and tell me if I'm wrong, for the flipped classroom. What do you think? To use that as an example for the flipped classroom. Well, Braddock mentioned that in a very interesting pre-conference together with Joe Dale here. And I think that it is a really nice example for the flipped classroom, because as you can see, what we can do is we can use an educational platform which is called Edmodo. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay. So what I did was that I created in Edmodo a group with my students, and then what you can do is you subdivide the groups, so you form 2 different groups, and I sent the audio file to the listeners, and then I sent the video without the sound to the viewers. And that was kind of first, let's say, attempt to do the flipped classroom. They watched it at home. And then something really strange happened. A discussion there in Edmodo. They were sending me ideas. Miss, what's that? Please tell us. what kind of book is this? We want to read it. What happened to the end? I said, don't worry, we're going to find that out. And then the next day, they came, and I told them, now you have to reconstruct the story in the class. And they really enjoyed that, because discussion in the classroom was initiated from all those things that they have seen. And they were thrilled. They wanted to read the book, and they wanted to read something more. There were others, my tech lovers, they wanted to tweak the story. Well, we haven't done that yet. They said, Miss, it's really nice, please. I mean, 180 characters, perfect for us. I haven't tried that yet, that's why I'm saying under construction. That would be the next plan. But as I was thinking about different videos that we can use for literature, I have found an interesting site which is called 60-Second Recap. I've used it, there's a library there with lots of different books. And the nice thing is that in the library you can find a whole book, but it is divided in different sessions. So you might have the content, the characters, you might have a review of the whole book. What about the style, the story? Well, now I will tell you the story of my failure to that, because, you know, as teachers we are not the experts, sometimes we fail. So this one didn't work well with my students, because at the beginning of some of these videos there are a lot of advertisements. So they pressed that and they were distracted. Well, that might work with, let's say, Lyceum, the senior high school students. I don't know, I will check it next time. But what I said to my students is, don't worry, we're going to look at the video and we're going to discuss. And there were really nice discussions. I don't know, yes, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. The best discussion ever, because it was about slavery. And the students, I mean, they were really thrilled. And then a debate was initiated, and they were so motivated that they wanted to read more books. And I said, wow, that's something that made me feel very proud of them. Something else that I want to point out is that sometimes the students have got unknown words. Do you all have that problem? They read a book and they say, we've got problems. However, I found another interesting site which is called Lexipedia, and then you can enter the word and it becomes like a web. And that's something that they really enjoy. They play games with that. And afterwards they come to me and they say, Miss, we're perfect. We have managed to find out what that word means. So I find a few tricks for them, and I think that that really motivates them, and they want to read more books. That's the latest thing that we are doing, Skype connections. It was something that we have started last year with the classrooms. The students wanted to find an expert, and they wanted to see different things about space, blah, 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 blah. But right now they read books, not only the classic literature, they read books, that come now with Penguin and everybody, readers. So what I told them is, I talk about Penguin because it's in Skype in the classroom, and Skype and Author WebPen. It's an author network, and there you can contact with authors, and you can have them in your classroom and talk with the kids, with the students, and they really enjoy that. So they're motivated, they see the real person. Not only that, you can also sign in Skype in the classroom and create your own lesson. This is something that they love, because they believe that they can collaborate with other students. I have created a lesson, and there was a request from students from Australia, and my students felt that they were citizens of the world. They said, wow, now we are the best. So, well, a few tricks, you know, because sometimes students get easily demotivated. So if you give them a few tricks, then I believe that they will come back to you. And all this in the area, well, that's something I want to pass very quickly. It's the project-based learning, and all this happens as in a project-based learning environment where we prepare the ground. We tell to everybody that there is not one project-based learning. I mean, you see, I used different sources for different students, which means that we have to use different sources in order to find out what's the needs of the special needs of a classroom. I use them. We have the culture in the school, the classroom culture, and we wanted to share it with you because we have vision for getting better.
Okay, well, it's my turn now to narrate a short story. 6 or 7 years ago, I had a bright student, a brilliant one. She was taking the proficiency exams, and later on she went on to become a translator. She studied translation at university, so she had a flair for languages. And when she was a student, I gave her a set book. We didn't work on that, but I thought it would be a good idea to read it, so she can understand what the level is about. So every time, because that was a private lesson, I went to her house. That was my Christmas present. My question was, did you like the book? And she always came up with lame excuses. Oh, well, you know, I was busy. Oh, I must have misplaced it somewhere. Years later, I bumped into her on the street, and she said, oh, and I still haven't read that book that you bought me. So I thought there must be something seriously wrong in the way I'm trying to promote literature. So a few years later, I tried a different activity with my students with the same book, but we're talking now about teenagers. Okay. Now, when a day that you happen to know is Wednesday starts off by sounding like Sunday, there's something seriously wrong somewhere. What does a Wednesday sound like? Can you close your eyes and think of the sounds that you might hear? A Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. What kind of sounds can you hear? Traffic. Well done. Yeah.
Garbage being collected.
Yes. Garbage trucks. Yes. What about Sunday?
Birds.
Birds. That's right.
Swimming.
Okay. All right. Let's see that. Okay. Well, I think you're old enough and your level of proficiency is too high to do that. This is the matching activity we did. What are the sounds they produce? And then I found very easily, they're free of charge, on the website, sounds. Can you recognize the sounds? Birds. What are they doing? They are? Excellent. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Skipping.
Yeah.
Ambulance.
An ambulance. Sirens. Wind chime. Yes. All right. So we read some extracts in class. They listened to the sounds. And why the founders of St. Mary's Hospital chose to erect their institution at the main road, crossing upon a valuable office site, and thus expose their patients' nerves to constant laceration, is a foible that I never properly understood. Customarily, the wind-bound buses thundered along, trying to beat the lights at the corner. As often as not, a pig squeal of brakes, then the released cross-traffic would rev and roar as it started up the incline. But this morning was different. Disturbingly, because mysteriously different. No wheels rumbled, no buses roared, no sound of a car of any kind, in fact, was to be heard. No brakes, no horns. So what do you think happened there?
He's dead.
She's dead.
What happened? The previous one read the suicide.
The more I listened, he's still listening, so he's still alive. The queerer it seemed. There was not the cooing of a pigeon, not the chirp of a sparrow, nothing but the humming of wires in the wind. Spooky. Right. So what do you think happened there?
The aliens took over.
The aliens. Great. Any more, possible explanations?
Winter.
It's a Wednesday, remember. It's a Wednesday.
Winter.
It's winter.
Snow.
Snow, maybe.
Snow in London.
Snow in London, could be.
Public holiday winter.
Excuse me?
It's a public holiday and it's winter.
Holiday, could be. All right. I won't tell you. The book is, it's titled The Day of the Triffids, and this is what I did with the students. I said, I'm sorry I can't tell you. Take the book home, read it, and let's discuss it.
It's those plants.
Exactly. And even to the ones that were not into science fiction, they found it interesting because I had just stimulated their interest, and that's probably what's missing. And the only thing I used was some extracts and some free sounds, which was quite easy.
So the interest was stimulated, and then we might use, as we said before, Edmodo, Skype in the classroom. We use Linoid a lot. Dimitris will show us afterwards about that. Tuxedo and Clockster, which I think didn't work well, Dimitris, with the students.
I tried that with my primary school students, but it didn't really work. It's a beautiful web tool, but with very young learners it was quite difficult. A, because parents had reservations, and B, because not all students had an email address, which made things really difficult. Plus at school we block certain sites and streaming, which made it quite difficult for us to access it. We would have to go to a special room where we would have access. But we found that Lino and some other, I'm sure that it will be working much better with older ages, but we worked with other web tools.
Linoid is really interesting.
Okay. So far we've been talking about stimulating their interest. Bloom's taxonomy is very trendy, everybody has it in every talk, so we thought we had to put it in here as well.
We tried to find something different, but the triangle kept coming again and again.
And we're talking about creating. We'll see how students will be asked to create. Okay, before we do that, let me show you. Our students use interactive course books.
That's why we have got them inside their netbooks. They've got all their books. So they come at school only with a netbook. I mean, they don't need books. Inside, they have got interactive phase, the DFS, and all the books are there.
So basically, this is what the content page looks in an interactive course book. And this is what we did. They all had the same reader. Okay. And, well, we
So again, that can be used in formal flipped classroom. They take it back at home and they read it.
We read a couple of pages in the classroom. We talked about it. Then we encouraged them to go home and read the book.
So now you have no sound, and it's spooky, the sound as the pages turn.
It is, but oops, sorry. And there's also a reader video. So even with the visual types, you have an initial stimulus.
Episode 1. The warning.
Okay. And then after that, we created a Lino campus. And we asked them, we divided them in groups, and we asked them to adopt a character. The girls, the kids, and they would have to write their reactions there. Some of them are very primitive.
Boo.
Boo. But some others liked it.
It shows the feeling,
sorry.
boo. It's really something frightening.
Okay, hold on. Let's visit the actual campus. Okay. Oh my God, they will angry the ghost and all of us will be in trouble with the spelling mistakes, but still it's genuine language, produced thanks to literature. I was scared, but the family were not here me. And Mrs. Otis, I don't afraid the ghost because I'm not really, and the stain of blood, that stain, not scare me. We're talking about 10-year-old kids. I'm Mr. Otis and I'm not afraid of ghosts because they're not real. No, don't kill me, ghost. I'm not afraid you because I'm Mr. Otis. Guess what? An American has bought my castle. How dare she? I'll scare him to death.
So you see different levels. I mean, from the boo thing to the very nice grammatical structure.
And it's very easy to set up one. You just log in, you create an account, and then it's very easy to create a canvas, and all your students can access it. And the best thing is they can access it from home, if they want to. And they can add their comment anytime they like. Could be 5 o'clock in the morning or 10 at night. And who
And
cares?
the teacher
As
is
long as they
always
do it.
there to see these
Okay.
comments. But there's again something else, Dimitris. What we do with the tuxedo, I think.
Yes.
This is really nice.
Another tool we used is called Tuxedo, and actually it works like Wordle. You ask them to, well, once you access it, the input is words, you give words, and then you create nice shapes. So we originally asked them to do the same story, but we asked them to write the favorite words from the book, and here's what they came up with.
Ghost. Motivation and creativity at the same time.
And then what we actually did, we told them, right, we know you love books. We were just basically labeling them, telling them that they like books. And they went to the library and they had to borrow a book, and they had to produce their own word cloud. And they came up with nice things. Right. I know that you kept thinking about literature and why it should be, or why it shouldn't be taught in class, but here are some of our conclusions. Well, we both feel that literature greatly enriches the EFL class with exposure to different genres. And unfortunately, on the web you can't find all genres. And even if you do, it's highly unlikely that your students will access them, because they don't feel very familiar with them.
Technology can be a powerful ally and not a foe, and I will tell you my personal story. I don't know if that happened to any of you. When I started 7 years ago at school, I didn't know even how to click on the computer. I didn't like computers, and when our director came and he told us that you have to follow these seminars and to become computer techs, I said, no, I don't want to do that. 7 years later, I'm really proud we have won that scholarship, because I realized that technology is not something that you can throw it to your students. Use different sites like Tuxedo, like Edmodo, like Linoid, like Fireworks. Please don't do that. I mean, when you start using something, you have to have a continuation. You have to use it again. That's why we said Edmodo can be used in different, let's say, situations. It started as a game with my student, and then I realized that I can use it as what I heard about the flipped classroom. I don't know what's next, but what you have to do is you have to get trained, you have to love all these things, and finally you will understand that they really help the students because they motivate them and because our students were born in that era.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and let's say, well, to us, technology is not panacea. That's a Greek word which means a remedy for all kinds of diseases. But it can definitely stimulate their interest in literature. And we're talking about a generation that was born and raised with clicking, tapping, any kind of portable device, and whenever I want something, I always ask my students' help when it comes to technology. But the thing is, they don't feel very confident, and sometimes they might be put off by the very idea of opening a book. So we need to initiate them into this magical world and show them that words are not something they need to be scared of, but it's something that can stimulate their imagination and can make them creative. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'd like to thank IATEFL and the Learning Technologies SIG for giving us a scholarship and giving us the opportunity to be here today with you. Any questions? Anything you would like to talk about? Yeah.
Can I just ask, when you asked the children to go off and get a book from the library, was that a paper library.
Yes, a paper library.
So
Yeah.
you're going from technology and so using technology as an introduction, and then giving them a real book in their hands.
We're really lucky because we've got a librarian who's a really nice person. She gave them a guided tour, and we've got graded readers there because, well, they're not non-native. And gradually, a few years earlier, we used to spoon feed them. We used to bring their books in class and we would say, please take a book. Nobody took books, very few. Once they felt they were more responsible and they were old enough to do it by themselves, they started gradually going to the library. It was a unique experience, I guess, for them.
And right now we have a lot of students from there. So they really enjoy that. And they've learned that, technology is initiation. I mean, you start with that and then they discover a really interesting world with different morals and ethics that right now sometimes they tend to have disappeared. So that helps them to build a completely different notion of the world that we have nowadays.
I have just a question. The Access 3 ebook you used, is that something your school bought? Is it something that each child has?
Yes.
Yes.
On a device, or
device.
do you use it in on
That's
an
inside
iPad?
Yes.
Okay.
I told you we have got a
Tablet
book
PCs, yes.
with all their books inside. Everything.
Well, the students have at home the hard copy,
Okay.
if they want to, but they feel more comfortable using a tablet PC.
Of course.
To them, it's only natural to use it. Well, thank you very much once again.
Thank you.